This might be my last video ever, guys, because I think I've found the secret religion of the world. And we all know how it goes, really, when you criticize the dominant religion of the day. So, what are we talking about today? We are talking about the Gnostic Gospels. Let's get it in here, nice and big. Quite fashionable these days. A lot of people are talking about it. It appears in like Hollywood and games, pretty big on YouTube and the freedom movement, all that kind of stuff. A lot of people are talking about it. Let's get the old thumbnail going though. I mean, do I dare? Do I dare do that? What is it? That thing. You know, the old hand gesture where grown men keep secrets from the world. That one. Okay, so I don't know if that's this religion. Really, I don't. Because you can't say anything about those guys, can you? The secret societies. Because you don't know anything they're doing. But anyway, I'm going to talk about this book today. So, in case you haven't heard about it, what is the story with the Gnostic Gospels? Funnily enough, they reappeared in 1945, you know, the end of World War II. The story goes they were discovered in a clay jar in Egypt, Nag Hammadi, that's why they are called the Nag Hammadi texts. And they didn't see the value in them. Somebody used them as firewood, like anybody would do that, but anyway, we'll get past that. Eventually, it found their way into museums and stuff, and they got recognized as old biblical scripture left out of the Bible. Now, the reason I just don't believe that is because it's so definitely not Christianity. So I read these a long time ago, before I became a Christian again. And the funny thing was that when I read it back then, I was looking at it from an atheist's point of view. And some of the Jesus copy, some of the Jesus mimicry, it slipped through me as is like, I thought that was actually the gospel. So they were misquoting the gospels. They were misquoting some of Jesus' parables to fit this worldview, and we'll get into it. But when I was reading it as an atheist, I missed a lot. So when I understood the actual gospel and I went back to it, I was like, oh my God, it's not just pretending to be Christianity. It's actively redirecting it. So I don't particularly believe the origin story of Gnosticism. This is not a liberating doctrine, but I can see why it's lured people in, because some of the allegories are absolutely perfect for some of the things that are happening right now. The prison planet analogy is an absolutely perfect analogy for an evil, corrupt system. The Yaldabaoth, the god in this, we'll get to it if you haven't heard of it. Don't worry, I'll explain the whole creation story to you. Basically, the evil creator god is called Yaldabaoth. He's a lion-headed, serpent-bodied, inferior, angry, just soulless. Well, he's not soulless, he has got a soul, but he's not as soulful as men. But he's just like this inferior, jealous creator god who, let's be honest, a lion and a snake, force and fraud. You don't get a better allegory of the state, a brutal, lying, conquering state. That's a great allegory. And a lot of people, when you see on YouTube talking about this, they emphasize the Gnosis part, the knowledge gaining part, and that's a great thing. It is, you know, it's to learn knowledge is power. To learn knowledge equips you to deal with the world, and that's all a very good thing. But they miss out a huge part of this that leads this directly into authority, not a liberation doctrine. Credit where it's due. This is a fantastically illustrative, imaginative, inspiring doctrine. It's definitely not to be taken literally. But credit where it's due. Beautiful. Study this yourself. Watch the videos on YouTube. It's very, very imaginative, evocative, and all this kind of stuff. And like I say, as allegory, fantastic. So let's get to the creation story, because you have to basically, if you've never heard this, you kind of have to hear this before you can make any sense of it. Imagine you've got the Bible. You all know the creation story in the Bible. What Gnosticism does is it goes a step before that. And what it does is it has the Tao, essentially. It has the One. It has an infinite, incomprehensible being. Some unbelievable light that can't be described. It goes on for 3.5 pages, whatever. You can't describe this thing. It's beyond everything. And then one day, this incomprehensible being comprehends itself. And that comprehension becomes a distinct thing from it. It's one thing. Comprehending itself is another thing. And this thing is called Barbelo. It's the reflection of God. The One is basically God in Gnosticism. One of them. And when Barbello looks at God, natural, logical things happen in Barbello's head, like thinking, thought, understanding, and these things all come into existence as well as perfect ideas. Now, when all incomprehensible light notices Barbello and all of these aeons, it loves it, and it goes, oh wow, and something else is born. That love becomes the Christ, the Christos. It's the Son. So Father, Mother, Son is all one thing in Gnosticism. The aeons that come with Barbello makes the pleroma. It's heaven. So from there, one of these aeons, the 13th one, called Sophia, she represents wisdom, she wants to comprehend God as well. She looks at this all-encompassing light and she goes, I want to understand what that is. So when she starts thinking about it, she goes, you know what? That it made things by itself. I want to make things by myself. And Sophia's partner, there's a weird kind of duality thing going on here. There's like everything is there's just like everything is balanced. You can't just have one thing. Everything has a counterpart in this law. So Sophia wants to make something by herself. The Christ doesn't give consent, and the God doesn't give consent either. And Sophia births this evil thing called Yaldabaoth, some imperfect, flawed being that doesn't look like it. It's a lion-headed serpent kind of thing. So she's ashamed of it, and she sends it to the Chaos Realm, which is here, Earth. Well, not at that point, but it becomes it when Yaldabaoth goes with an inkling of the heavens above him. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna make aeons. I'm gonna make things. I'm gonna make this and I'm gonna make that. And he basically recreates what the pleroma was in his flawed, demiurgic kind of way. It's imperfect. It's evil. It's chaotic. It's dark. It's ignorant. So when he's doing all this, then he says, I'm the only God and there's no other God before me. You remember that one? This is where the Old Testament starts. And I say starts, maybe the Old Testament can be interpreted like this, as in the Gnostic way. Maybe the Old Testament can be interpreted like that because famously, light is created twice and man is created twice in the actual Old Testament. So it could be a reinterpretation of that. But it also, like the rest of the Old Testament, wouldn't really make sense with the Gnostic view. So I guess that's why they've had to make the Gnostic version, or include the Old Testament in it, to make this kind of direction make sense. So Yaldabaoth says, as Yahweh, I'm the only God and there's no other gods before me. And that's when Christos appears in the Beyond Heaven in Pleroma. And somebody says, I think I might be the one who says, no, the Pleroma, the Son exists. And Yaldabaoth looks up and goes, whoa, and he sees like the Christ. And he goes to his archons, hey, we need to make some of that, it can help us out. So it makes man, and man isn't a man. Christos in this law is androgynous. It has male and female parts. So when Yaldabaoth makes man, it's a male and a female androgynous thing together. Now, it doesn't work. I'm going to get some of these details wrong. Some of these stories are very different. They change the names and they change the order of things. But basically, if you want to get a good idea of Gnosticism, look at the Pistis Sophia, which is huge, or you can use the smaller version, which is the Secret Book of John. The clearest one would be the Secret Book of John. Yaldabaoth is tricked into breathing his divine spark into Adam, and he comes to life as an androgynous being, and he's more powerful than all of the things in that realm. So everyone panics. And then they split Adam apart, making Adam and Eve, male and female. And when they split them, it weakened them. You know what, I'll leave it there. You've basically got the basic idea. From there, the Bible is essentially turned on its head. Because if you add that beginning story to it, everything's upside down now. Sodom and Gomorrah becomes the pasture of Seth. Good guys are bad guys are good guys. You get the picture. So we're going to start with one of the main bedrock ideas of Gnosticism, that the world is evil, a prison, made by an evil creator god who's flawed and hates mankind. So what's the problem with an evil world? One, it makes it impossible to fix. It's futile. If the fabric of the universe, and that includes the planets, if the fabric of the world is basically evil, what is the point in trying to change it? When the original setting of the world is evil, it takes the blame away from individuals and systems, because in reality, the world isn't evil, it's indifferent. People have a hard time comprehending the world fully. The world doesn't have to make sense to us. We have to make sense to each other, but the world doesn't have to make sense to us. We can barely comprehend things. Like we can't say all the colours that a certain bird can. We can't hear all the sounds that other certain animals can. The world doesn't have to make sense to us. Saying that the world is evil, it takes the blame off individuals, like I say, powerful people who make exploitive systems. If you think the world's evil, you'll just go, well, that's just how it is, you know what I mean? There's no point changing it. But we should change things. We should have a system that matches humanity, that treats people as we want to be treated, that has equal exchange, that has equal rights among everybody, that doesn't reward the right to wrong, the right to stamp on people's heads and go, well, I was able to do that, so that's what I'm going to do. If you accept the original setting of the world as evil, that all becomes fine. And what about the idea that God is evil? How demoralizing is that? How severing from the world is that? To think that you're no longer in connection with this universe and this majesty that we all exist in. Now you're the opponent of it, or it's the opponent of you, to be more exact. It's just a demoralizing idea. Like I said, we've got this, and I do think we do have a divine spark inside us, but that divine spark it's everything. Like, we're part of this whole tapestry. We're not from a beyond area. We are this thing. We're the whole thing. So if you say that God's evil, what you're really doing is discrediting their holy books, discrediting their leaders. So this adds to the whole mimic imposter ideology thing. That if you come along and you say, hey, didn't you know this? That we've got secret knowledge and God's evil, and you know your leader over there is lying to you because he's praying to the wrong guy. And this book, all this knowledge that you guys have got, is wrong. It's out of date because this is the real book. And Jesus even says in there, oh, fake Jesus anyway, sarcastic, makes fun of everybody Jesus, laughing his head off all the time, didn't really die on the cross, no, that was just somebody else. Jesus, by the way, is a spirit that can travel between different things in this thing. But there's a story, and it's hard to bring this up, that doesn't sound like you're talking about the Bible, because they've called it the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of so-and-so. It mimics the Bible. But anyway, there's a part where it says the disciples are all praying to God. And Jesus starts laughing at them like, morons. And say, why are you laughing at us? And it's like, you don't know which God you worship. And only Judas knows. Only Judas knows that he's from the pleroma. And he's like, all right, Judas, come here. I've got some secret knowledge for you. Doesn't that sound totally like Jesus? So yeah, it's just... That's the kind of the vibe you get from this book. It mocks your book, your religions, your beliefs, your traditions, and it says ours is the only one that counts. Kills your God, kills the world. What's next? Your body? Yes, your body is evil too. So obviously, the evil creator God made your body. There's 3 plots against humanity in this book. First, the Archons tried to outbreed humanity by putting a dark kin in women. But it didn't really work. These dark kin are just around, and some women are possessed by this dark kin. It doesn't tell you who. So basically, you just avoid women, I guess. But the second plot was the flood in the Bible, and that didn't work either. So the third plot is something called the artificial spirit, which is basically implanted in all humans when they procreate. And what this thing does is it gives you a desire for material wealth, a desire for procreation, and it also gives you this sin tally. It's kind of like every time you do something wrong, it marks it down on a sin tally. And when you die, in Gnosticism, you go past the archons and past the aeons. The acorns. I guess that would be a better way. Anyway, I wonder that's why that statue's there. Anyway, you get past the acorns. If they find any sins in you, if they find a reason to keep you down on earth, they'll knock you back down. And that's what this sin tally does inside you. What the artificial spirit is always looking to see what you're doing and making notes. You know, that was bad, I'll keep you here forever. You've got to wonder, is that what guilt is? Isn't that a moral compass? Like, is that a terrible thing, really? Having a sin tally? But apparently it is in this book, and we'll get to what they do with it later. But that's part of the artificial spirit, and so is the desire to procreate. Because if you really think this planet is a prison, procreation is really press-ganging spirits into prison. You may as well be going out and grabbing people out of the cosmos and throwing them into Yaldabaoth's Oath's prison. So procreation isn't a good thing in the Gnostic ideology. And the material wealth thing, fair enough. Don't be distracted by riches. It's not the only thing in life. But the whole material abandonment thing, I mean, when you consider that the whole world is material in this ideology, abandoning material wealth means abandoning the world. You're not meant to have anything, no connections to anything. And that keeps coming up in Gnosticism. Abandon the world. Own nothing and be happy. No possessions, no family members, no kids. I mean, procreation's bad, you're not going to have any kids. Women are fairly demonized in this. There's a moment where Simon Peter says, "Women are not fit to live. How can you give her the same knowledge we are?" And Etsy Jesus says, "I will make the woman like a man, so she will have the right to live." And it's like, oh, so yeah, this androgyny thing, this transgender thing's definitely a thing. And the reason why I said this might be my last video is because you see this kind of behavior in modern day. You see these celebrities' kids who are all messed up. They're all wrong. And the adopting kids as well. And there's nothing wrong with adopting kids, really. But when you see that it's all the celebrities doing it, it's like, why? In school and universities, there's all of these transgenderizing ideas, sterilizing yourself ideas, pretty girls playing football and being total men, and men feminizing themselves, and it's all very embracing the opposite. It's all very males embracing femininity and females embracing masculinity, and that's very big in Gnosticism. Fairly grim. What's that I really look forward to anymore in this world? In your life, what are you going to look forward to? Surely only escape. So how do you get out of this hell world? You achieve Gnosis. So the path to Gnosis is divine knowledge, and ignorance, unsurprisingly, is a sin. There's a story in this called the Pistis Sophia, and basically she comes down to the chaos, and she spends 13 atonements trying to get back up. So there's the Aeons, and there's also the Archons, and the way this is organized is, it suggests, it doesn't say it outrightly, but it does suggest that you have to not outsmart, but you have to conquer these Aeons and Archons in some kind of way. Otherwise, you'll never leave into the Pleroma. They'll stop you somehow. Now, ignorance is a funny thing, because we're ignorant of a lot of things, particularly wickedness. And wickedness comes up here in a very clear way. It says that the only way to deal with wickedness is to expose it to the light, to get it out from the ground as roots and bring it out for everyone to see. And that was a bit uncomfortable, because how do you really deal with wickedness? It's not like trauma. It's not like forgiving somebody who wronged you in the past. Wickedness. What are you going to do? How are you going to achieve knowledge of ignorance? How are you going to eradicate your ignorance of it? Surely by doing it. And what is wickedness? It's not punishing a criminal. It's not punishing somebody who deserves it. It's cruelty. It's actual wickedness. Where are you going to do that? Where are you going to do that and get away with it? Who's going to encourage you to do that? And who's going to let you off? Who's going to turn a blind eye to it? So wickedness is mentioned, but also the Archons are the shadow versions of the Aeons. And Aeons are positive ideas, which means the shadow version is a negative idea. To eradicate ignorance of all of that, surely you have to do bad things. Do you remember that artificial spirit that took a sin tally? Well, conveniently enough, when you become one of these guys on the journey and you're figuring out wickedness and all this other kind of stuff, and you're getting knowledge of the highest heights and the lowest depths, just like Gnostic Jesus did, conveniently enough, there's something like a super baptism in here that'll pardon all of your past sins, but more specifically, all of your future sins. You're above the law now. So the way the archons work is they can stop you from leaving. Somehow, they can just prevent your soul from getting any higher. So what the super baptism does is it burns away that sin tally. Your artificial spirit's no longer there. So you can just go right past that archon. And once you've passed an archon and you go to another one, it can't get past. Yeah, it's out of its jurisdiction, like a policeman from another state. Can't get past. So basically, what that says in a nutshell is, there's a certain point on this journey when you become above the law, untouchable, unaccountable. I forgot to mention that as well, that suffering is necessary for Gnosis. There's a lot of questions and answers here, and this is where Gnosticism knits itself into the Bible, because the Jesus in here will say things like, I'm going to explain a mystery concept here. And all of the disciples answer him saying, oh, I think I've got it, and here's how it is. You mentioned this in Psalms. You mentioned this in Matthew. You mentioned this in Luke or whatever like that. And they'll compare existing Bible sayings to Gnostic Jesus sayings, and then Gnostic Jesus will go, yeah, you're right, and all this kind of stuff. And he says that suffering is necessary for Gnosis. And one of those questions that the disciples asks is, what if a righteous person who harms nobody, is actually righteous, lives his life and dies? What happens when he dies and goes to one of these archons or aeons without suffering? He's just a righteous person. And fake Jesus says he'll suffer a little bit. Because you kind of have to suffer a little bit to unlock Gnosis. So he'll just be toasted just a little bit in the fires of hell. And he'll go to the next guy and he'll be mangled just a little bit. And then he'll come back here and he'll be tormented just a little bit with the pitchforks. And then he'll come back and he'll have a bit more Gnosis. So if you're a righteous person, you're still going to get done in Gnostic heaven. But don't worry, because these guys can give you secret passwords and they can pray for you and they can have you pass certain Gnosis. They make themselves so indispensable that they're allowed to give you passwords. What was that in V for Vendetta? Let them remember they need us. I just imagine how this goes. It'll be like, well, I'm a really good guy and I'm about to die, Gnostic Master. Can you help us here with one of these Archon guys? And he goes, yeah, I'll give you one of these passwords. The password is vagina. Oh, thank God. Thank you. Thank you for this password, Gnostic Master. If that didn't convince you, now we're going to talk about the reason I'm telling you this story. Because this is why Gnosticism is not a liberating doctrine. It's not liberation. It's not you going on a journey by yourself and learning things and seeking knowledge and getting out there of this prison planet hell world that's completely demoralizing and it severs you from God and the world. Here is why this is not a journey for you. You need a master race to get out of this world. They talk about the divine lineage of Seth, or the steadfast lineage, or the flawless human, or the elect. There's a lot of different words for it. Essentially, it comes down to a master race. You won't know the mysteries. You have to go and appeal to a master to tell you these things, because apparently you're born with a keypad that's been muddied over, and only these guys can brush it all away and have you achieve Gnosis. Now, where does this lineage of Seth come from? Gnostics are told not to believe anybody born of woman, essentially a material person. Don't believe in them. Jesus is a vehicle for a spirit, and that spirit can go on multiple people. I've already said the snake and Gabriel is Jesus. It's the spirit of Jesus. So the divine lineage of Seth, what it is it describes Adam in the very beginning. He joins with his what's it called? There's a special word for it. It's basically an agent from Sophia. It's an agent from the divine. But basically it means there's a part in Adam's brain that he melded with. And that's what born Seth. So what Seth is a spiritual transformation in you. So what the great lineage of Seth is anybody who's had this spiritual transformation in them. They are not born of woman. They are reborn in their brain, in their spirit. These are the great lineage. These are the master race. These are the guys who can only lead you out of hell. Essentially, Gnostic end times is, when there's a perfect number of these perfect souls, these guys who have went in the bridal chamber and they've melded male with female, light to dark, positive and negative, opposite to opposite. Once they've done it in their own head and there's a perfect number of them, everything gets obliterated. And the only people left are the elect. So, it's a life or death mission these guys seem to be on. To get everybody to be one of these brain babies. And that was why I decided to make this video. Because I'm concerned that this theme keeps coming up. Just authority in allegory form. That the God really is the rank above you. Hierarchy. You're not the God, so don't let people tell you that this divine spark makes you God and you're going to achieve godhood. Because if somebody had to tell you that, you're automatically a follower. The master race told you that. They're God. They're the rank above you. They're the hierarchs. They're the specialists. They're the masters. They can make a student out of a king. They can make a pupil out of a pope. Because they have the mysteries. They have the secrets. And if you believe that, you're automatically subservient to them. Authority. Hierarchy. Not freedom. Not liberation.